Good evening and welcome. If you'd like to move up, you're more than welcome to. If you'd like to help yourself to more food or drink, feel free to do so. I know some people need to scoot out early, so feel no shame. It is very good to come and go. So, I want to let you know that the event is being recorded this evening, and to remind you to please turn off your phones if you haven't done that already. So good evening. My name is Ruth Trimarchi, your host for the evening, and I'm honored to welcome you to this year's Civic Leadership Award celebration for Joyce Westner. Tonight's event is rooted in the legacy of the League of Women Voters. Winchester's League first started in 1888 as the Winchester Equal Suffrage League to champion women's right to vote. After the 19th Amendment passed in 1920, the League of Women Voters in its current form was founded with a nonpartisan mission to encourage civic engagement and policy advocacy on key issues of the day. Here in Winchester, our league has upheld that mission, hosting candidate forums, debates, registering voters, and holding events like tonight's Civic Leadership Award to honor those who strengthen civic life in our town. This year's honoree, Joyce Westner, was an easy choice. Joyce has a lifelong passion for writing, research, and bringing people together. As founding journalist and first editor of the Winchester News, she launched an independent local online newspaper that now reaches over 3,000 subscribers with thoughtful, reliable journalism. Joyce also played a key role in preserving Right Lock Farm and shaping it into a vital community, farming, and education center. Joyce's leadership has extended to the Cultural District, the Cultural Council, and as a town meeting member. Through her film collaborations with Peter Pulsifer, she's helped inform the public about our local government. On a personal note, I first met Joyce when I wandered into the Right Lock farmhouse, following a sign that said, "Eggs for sale." There were no eggs for sale that day, but what I found instead was a group deeply engaged in conversation and seemingly unaware that I had wandered in. Joyce looked up, and with a manner that I subsequently discovered was true to her nature, she wrangled the unruly group to attention with a loud, "Hello, are you here to join us?" I said, "Sure, what am I joining?" And then and there began a decade-long friendship, and Joyce introduced me to the Save the Farm initiative and many more adventures along the way. I can't see with my reading glasses if our first speaker is Pat Jalen arrived yet. Why don't we invite Massachusetts State Representative Michael Day to come forward and speak, and then Senator Jalen will follow. Thank you and welcome, Mike.
Good evening, everyone. I am very happy to be here tonight for this well-deserved recognition for Joyce. And I want to just open by thanking the League of Women Voters for promoting civic and civil discourse, both of which are really lacking right now, certainly on the national scale. I wake up every day happy I live in Massachusetts, and very happy that I live here and have the privilege of representing Winchester and Stoneham in the State House. The League is essential to our civil discourse and civic discourse. And I think the League got it correct again with this year's honoree, Joyce Westner. You'll hear a lot about Joyce tonight. I just want to commend and thank Joyce, not only for your involvement in our town and in our discourse here, through town meeting, through your advocacy for Right Lock Farm, but most recently, and importantly to me, the founding of Winchester News, where we're seeing our newspapers shrinking, disappearing. When I started as a state rep, we had 4 newspapers in Stoneham and Winchester. and they're going away for a number of reasons. And we're seeing a censorship of the news, certainly of entertainment. We're seeing those on a daily basis. And local news is hugely important because there is no such thing as alternative facts. And the more light we shine on what we're doing here locally, the more involved our population is, more informed they are, and better citizens we all are as a result of that. And that is a huge step forward with the movement of Winchester News. And so I personally want to thank you for what you're doing on that end. I see Senator Jalen has arrived here as well, so I will exit stage left in a moment, but and I've got the citation up here, Senator, for you. But Joyce, from the Massachusetts House, we've got a citation here commending you and thanking you to M. Joyce Westner in recognition of, and now I do have to go to my glasses, I'm sorry. Actually, I don't, if I could go this way. Your numerous contributions to the town of Winchester, including the founding of Winchester News, serving on the Central District Council and town meeting, and your dedication to making the lives of our community, the lives of everyone in our community better. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all of your endeavors. Joyce, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Representative Day. And now we'd like to welcome to the stage our Senator Pat Jalen.
Well, I'm really happy to be here and see so many people here to honor Joyce Westner. And I forgot to say anything nice about the League of Women Voters. But it's a institution that requires a lot of time and commitment, and it is extremely important. And when you weigh in at the state level, I hope people pay attention, and I know you get people involved very at the local level. But I'm just particularly excited that the League is recognizing Joyce Westner for her many years of civic work for the town, and particularly for her incredible effort in organizing, managing, and writing for the Winchester News. Democracy dies in darkness, as in the slogan of a once independent newspaper. Our whole country is in a news desert these days, as even large metropolitan newspapers reduce their staff, their coverage of local news, and their circulation. Fewer people are reading newspapers at all, even online. When Joyce wrote her first news article at the age of 10, America's shared the same news network news stations, and our parents all watched Walter Cronkite. They trusted those news sources. Now, too many of us get our news from social media, which has no fact checks and gives us feeds that confirm our biases. And locally, people used to depend on a local paper like The Star, but costs went up and chains have bought and shrunk and closed pretty much every local newspaper. With the collapse of local newspapers, people often have nothing but word of mouth and maybe a chat group or a blog to know what's going on in our communities. Right now, before an election in many communities, people try to find someone to tell them who to vote for. That's if they know there's an election. And I just today read that in the past 2 weeks, some people tried to use AI to find out the election results in Boston and Somerville. And AI gave them the answers, even though the elections had not happened. They got it right in Boston. They got it wrong in Somerville. But the problem is, if people think there's already been an election, they might not show up. So it could be a source of voter suppression. So it's really incredibly important what Joyce and her team have accomplished here, a real online newspaper with writers who know Winchester and know how to write, design, and edit. Thank goodness for the internet, which allows immediate delivery, doesn't charge for paper and ink and presses. I guess you pay for delivery in some form. So this is hard and crucial work, and we're all grateful for what Joyce and her team and the many people who support the news, which I hope is all of us, are creating a trusted and reliable source of local news. So like my colleague, Representative Day, I have a much less erudite citation from the State Senate, which I will present to Joyce as well.
Thank you, Senator Jalen. And could you please welcome to the stage now Hilda Wong-Du, the president of the Winchester Cultural District.
I always worry about these podiums. Can you see me over it? Thank you, Ruth, and to the Winchester League of Women Voters for giving me this opportunity to honor Joyce tonight. Joyce is one of my inspirations. I can remember very clearly the day that that I met Joyce. She accosted me at a farmer's market, and she said, "You have to sign this document. It's in support of changing the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board." I was glad to do it. And it was clear to me that I was dealing with a force of nature. I got to know Joyce more as she relieved me of my secretarial duties on the Winchester Historical Society Board. And during that time was when she had started to advocate to establish the cultural district. What I learned is that she knew about everything, how the intricacies of the town government works. How do you work with the Mass Cultural Council? Who are all the candidates that are running, and what do they stand for? And what she didn't know, she was going to go find out. Methodically. I still have the spreadsheet of all 55 cultural districts in the state of Massachusetts, how they're organized, and the pros and cons of their organization. Thankfully for that, we now have a nonprofit, it's Winchester. So she was the first person that I reached out to when I saw the Burlington Sculpture Park. And I said, "Joyce, is that fit within the cultural district mission? If they can do it, why can't we?" Indeed, come to my porch and let's talk about it. Dogged, relentless, creative, funny, direct, no nonsense, and most importantly, kind. Joyce, you're an instigator, an advocate, but also a creator. And what a combo. She is somebody who gets things done. And if she can't do it, she will find a way. When we came up with the idea of how could we create sculptures that we could fill with trash from Aberjona cleanup day, Joyce said, "I'll get August to do it. He'll create a big blue fish." And that's exactly what he did, with help from James welding it. So renaming the select board, a town meeting member, establishing the cultural district, Legacy Winchester, anti-rat poisoning, Winchester News, botanical watercolorist, award-winning filmmaker, on town meeting, on the transfer station. This is only what I know in the last 5 years. Joyce is also a Peace Corps veteran. Its mission is to promote world peace and friendship through community-based development and intercultural understanding. Well, Joyce, our community and our world is a better place because of your efforts. Thank you for all of the work that you do, and I am honored to consider you a friend. Bravo.
And thank you, Hilda. And please welcome to the stage Tara Hughes, President of the Winchester News Board of Directors.
I'm actually glad I wore heels. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Tara Hughes. I'm the president of the Board of Winchester News. When I was asked to speak about Joyce tonight, I immediately said yes, even though I'm no fan of public speaking. I mean, who is, right? But it's for Joyce. Can anyone say no when it comes to Joyce? Has anyone said no? Okay, her daughter, that's about it, right? Not many people have said no. I haven't known Joyce probably as long as most of you have, but having first met her during the time on my communications study committee made me know that Joyce is still the perfect recipient of this award. You don't have to know her long to know that. Admittedly, I was also happy to hear, though, that people who are sometimes calendar challenged can still win such a prestigious award. I think Joyce knows what I'm talking about. After our meeting last week, I had to remind Joyce that yes, she was receiving an award this week. I know Joyce has been instrumental in so many things in town. I won't go over all of them since everybody has already talked about most of them, but one that now has been mentioned but wasn't mentioned before is her famous videos with Peter to educate residents about such important topics as our beloved transfer station. And I talk about this because in our meetings it often comes up. According to Joyce, you never call it the dump. Never. So Joyce has been part of many organizations, so many organizations, it's been hard to keep track of. She was on town meeting and then on the communications study committee where I met her. During our time on that committee, many of us realized that there was one form of communication that was severely missing in town, and that was a comprehensive local newspaper. So when our job was over, I realized that starting a local newspaper was something that I really wanted to be a part of. I reached out to some of the members to see if they had the same interest as I did, and was told, oh, Joyce already started a group, don't worry about it. Because of course she did. Joyce Westner gets things done. Since then, the board may have changed a bit, but Joyce is still here. We still meet at Joyce's house for every meeting. She makes sure as best she can that we're going to stay on track and that we get our job done. She has been my mentor, my cheerleader. She is a founder, the board's clerk, the original editor, and the best marketer for Winchester News. I mean, have you received your bookmark yet? She doesn't leave home without them. And she's also one of our most consistent writers. Joyce writes columns that draw regular readers in on a weekly basis, and they focus on putting a spotlight on others who do wonderful work in our community. So I'm so glad that today we can finally put a spotlight on Joyce. And in typical Joyce form, she didn't want Winchester News to interview her and do a story. She said, at least wait till after the event. So please keep an eye out, because hopefully, right Joyce? Hopefully we will soon have one up on Winchester News. As a final note, I wanted to relay this one last story. When Joyce first learned that she would be receiving this award and she reached out to the board of Winchester News, she pointed out again in typical Joyce fashion that we should all be receiving this award. She said everything she did to earn this award also involved others. While it's true most things take a village to accomplish, all villages need a leader. That's Joyce. So I want to congratulate Joyce on her well-deserved receipt of the Civic Leadership Award. Thank you, Joyce, for all that you do for me and for the community.
Thank you, Tara. And please welcome Peter Engeldrum, independent filmmaker. And who knows what else?
First of all, I want to congratulate you on the well-deserved 2025 Civic Leadership Award. Our filmmaking partnership started when Joyce and I served together on the Winchester Cultural Council. The council often received applications requesting funds for various film projects. So it was during these council deliberations that Joyce learned that I was a film producer. And later on, she asked me if I was interested in doing a video series called This is Winchester. The idea would be a short series of films to educate residents on the various departments of town government. I liked the idea, so I said yes. The first film we made was about town meeting. And if you've ever not lived in New England, the concept of the town meeting and the process of preparation may be a complete mystery. We outlined the film, recorded and edited just before the pandemic hit. Fired up with our first production, we submitted it to the 2021 Nationwide Alliance for Community Media's Hometown Media Awards. And this is a national competition. We won the Best in Government Profile category. And in case you've not seen it, plug, there's a link on for the video on the town meeting homepage on the Town Winchester website. Of course, if we needed incentive to continue the series, this award was certainly it. 2 more films followed. The first one was called The Transfer Station is Not a Dump. And Water, Water, which is the story of Winchester's reservoirs and the water department that supplies the water to part of the town. And we are still at it. Working with Joyce as a co-producer, director, writer is a lot of fun. She's great at corralling the appropriate folks to interview, and as a writer, reporter, has a list of cogent questions for the interviewees. She excels as a director, really. She gets the interviewees relaxed, keeps them on track, and gets them to toe the mark. I'm sure August would know more about that than I do. As for more films, we have only started. We're working on the next one, so stay tuned. Joyce, congratulations.
Thank you, Peter. And please welcome to the stage Charlene Band, previous member of Right Lock Farm Board of Directors, and also highly instrumental in saving the farm, and one of the nicest people that I know.
Good evening, everyone. Ruth, you said I'm nice. Joyce has never said I'm nice, not once, after all I've done for you. First of all, I could stand here for about an hour and a half to talk about Joyce, but she is wise, open-minded, energetic, and the last two, not toot her own horn. When it comes to doing her best to serve the Winchester community, it's virtually impossible to capture all of her achievements. But I first met Joyce when Right Lock Farm became a very hot issue in town, and we were very like-minded. We wanted to save the farm, and we did. And I can't say anything else on my script here because other people have already said it. But there's one thing I would like you to know about Joyce. You have to be pretty careful around her, especially careful about what you say. For example, me. Joyce, someone should write an article about something. Write it yourself. Another example, Joyce, why don't you write an article about something? Write it yourself. The deadline's next Thursday. Joyce, thank you so much, not just for everything you do for the community, but for being a really special friend. I love you, Joyce.
Thank you, Charlene. And last, but decidedly not least, Joyce's daughter, Elizabeth Westner.
So I'm afraid that I can't tell any stories about when I first met Joyce. They did ask me, this needs to be higher because I'm taller than I thought I was. They did ask me to speak for about 3 minutes, and they asked me to speak about what I have learned from my mother about having a career or civic or community involvement. But I had a feeling that the rest of the speakers would actually cover that. So I thought I'd tell you about some of the life lessons that I've learned from my mother. I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to have to talk really fast. So there are two things that Mom learned from her father, who was a City of Boston firefighter, that she's passed on to me. One is that the shortest way is the way you know. Slightly less important these days because we got GPS and Google Maps and all those things, but it's helpful if you're lost in the woods with no cell phone reception. And then the other lesson from Grandpa is that when you're driving, you should never back up more than you have to. Quite handy when you're driving a fire truck, but I can tell you from personal experience, it's also useful if you're driving a tiny Hyundai Accent, so old that it doesn't have a backup camera. Many times when I've been trying to figure out what to wear to something, she would say, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. The job I want is full-time hiker, so I'm a little overdressed today, but it's a special occasion. We're celebrating my mother, so I'm a little fancy today. Another lesson that Mom, that definitely spoke to me when I was a shy adolescent was that if you like something about someone, or if something that they've done makes you feel happy or makes you feel good, you should tell them so. Because that way, 2 people will be happy instead of just 1. That one might have come from Grandpa too, I'm not sure. Mom says she doesn't remember saying that, but I remember. But the one life lesson that really sticks with me the most is Mom's version of YOLO, which she came up decades before that Drake guy invented it, you only live once. I didn't know it was Drake, but did you guys know that? I Googled it because I didn't know, but now I'm telling you. Anyway, Mom's version of YOLO is always take the gondola ride because you never know when you're going to get to go back to Venice. Mom regretted that she wasn't able to ride a gondola in Venice. She didn't take the time. I personally regret the time that I was invited to spend extra time with my favorite author when I was in college because I have to go to class. Anyway, but I've taken that lesson to heart many times since then and made sure to visit special places I always wanted to go and see performers whom I always wanted to see. My 3 minutes are up, so I guess if you want to hear more about my mother, and I could go on for hours, feel free to talk to me afterwards, I'll be here. But here's a quick recap from the things I've learned from Joyce. The shortest way is the way you know. Don't back up more than you have to. Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Compliment others, and then you make 2 people happy. Here's a bonus one I didn't mention earlier. Buy flowers to feed your soul. We all love flowers. Flowers are wonderful. And of course, YOLO. By that I mean always take the gondola ride when you get the chance. So, go visit that tiny local museum you've driven by 100 times and have always been curious about. Go hear that comedian that you always wanted to hear because he might get canceled tomorrow. Go to Whipple Hill at 2 in the morning in January to see Halley's Comet. Save your local farm. start a newspaper, create a cultural district in your town, spend time with dear friends and family. Oh, and Mom, let's go to Venice one of these days and we can take that gondola ride, okay?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome. All right. The Winchester League of Women Voters is pleased to honor a woman who has made a significant contribution to civic life in Winchester. In appreciation of your creative spirit and dedication to our community, and for shaping public discourse and tackling some of the most challenging issues and policies of the day with civility, professionalism, and idealism. The Winchester League of Women Voters awards Joyce Westner our 2025 Civic Leadership Award. Thank you for your considerable service to our town, Joyce. Thank you.
Well, I get to talk too, which is my best quality. Thank you all so much for coming, especially my children, David and Elizabeth. And, you know, this is great. It's like going to your own funeral. You hear all these wonderful things. I didn't know I was that special, but I'm very surprised and honored that the League decided to give me this Civic Leadership Award. And of course, as you know, all the things that I've been given the award for, I've done all by myself. Oh no, I bake chocolate chip cookies all by myself. But in fact, everything I've done as a volunteer was always part of a group. For instance, the whole cultural district designation for downtown Winchester, that was Mary McKenna's idea. I'm so glad that she'll be able to see this on the WinCam recording. She asked me to help her do it. And then, of course, starting Winchester News as an outgrowth of the Communications Study Committee. You know, my sister and I were walking around Horn Pond, and we had just read in the paper about a newspaper in Marblehead that was started like ours. And also Betsy Wall, who was on the Communications Study Committee, she mentioned it to me too. So I said to the group, why don't we do this? And several of the members of the Communications Study Committee decided to stay on. And then, you know, getting the Board of Selectmen name changed to the Select Board, that wasn't my idea, that was Ruth's idea. And she asked me to help her out with that too. And then Right Lock Farm, you know, I'm an organizer, but the work was done by a lot of people. And of course, by many donors. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. And the award says it's for bringing idealism balanced with professionalism to shape public discourse in a civil fashion. So idealism, well, I'm an ideal example of a little old lady, but I'm far from an idealist. I only bet on sure things, like whether it's going to rain tomorrow. It's not, no. But it didn't take much to figure out that Winchester was ready for a news outlet, so residents can find what's happening in our community. And there's a lot of activities as well as the news. We get press releases from all over the place, and a lot of the activities I'd love to attend, but some of them come from Winchester, England. So my motto is, it takes a village. And our village of Winchester is a good example. And as somebody said, I've interviewed scores of helpers who contribute to the good things that can happen in our community and in all over the world, in fact. Do I shape public discourse? Well, as I said, discourse is my love. My sister Judy calls it my bartender gene. And it's true, my dad was a bartender for a while. And in second grade, Sister Ann Mildred made me sit in the chatterbox row. And I can discourse people into volunteering for pretty much anything. I didn't realize that, as Hilda said, I was accosting people, but I guess that's probably what I do. I got an immigrant to run for town meeting. I convinced an employee of one of the shops that was hosting art in August to buy the art from the artist. I was doing an article about her, and we happened to be inside the shop. He was thinking of buying it, but I strong-armed him. And then I talked Emily Costello and Peter Casey and Allison Swallow to join the news board, which already had Tara and Shukong O. And yet I can't talk my husband August into planting fewer tomato plants. So if you need any tomatoes, come up to my house, but you'll have to pick them yourself. He can't be here today because he's visiting his family in Germany. And the last quote about this award, a civil fashion. That's not really needed in our town. As Mike Day said, there are, places where it is needed, but we're lucky enough that even contentious discussions stay civil. When we were trying to save the farm, some of you may remember that Tony Conti, who was a town meeting member, he wanted the town to sell it because the town could use the money. And, we were really head and head against each other. But a couple of years later, when I was the campaign manager for Heather Von Mering, when she was running for the planning board, I was downtown holding a sign for her, and Tony was across the street. This was in front of Bookends, holding a competitor's sign. And we were both quoting poetry at each other, or lines from Shakespeare. But here's what I want to know. Seriously. Where's the money that goes with this award? We need it to keep publishing Winchester News. I'm just kidding. I know there's no money. But if you're listening to me today, or if you see this recording online, please pledge an extra $1 a month for Winchester News, and then an extra $100 a month to help needy people. Thank you so much. Can we stand together?
Joyce, we are so proud of you, and you're very, very deserving of this award. That concludes our event. The League of Women Voters would like to thank WinCam for videotaping the event. Thanks to the town of Winchester and all of the staff for use of this hall, and the many staff who helped with the logistics. Thanks to Right Lock Farm for the flowers, and to Mary Farrell and Cheryl Curtin, who designed the bouquets. Last and certainly not least, thank you to all of you who came this evening and attended. Please stay, eat some food, take it home, there's extra, and thank you and good night.